with the sun setting behind me. My time in Iowa is coming to an end. But my one full month, June, if we call it that, because I got here late on June 2nd, finally got a floor to look up who led hours in June out here. It was me. I know how many I played. It was about 205. I'll put the exact number on the screen right now. I couldn't get someone yet to look up who was number 2, but I have an idea, and I'm gonna ask someone else to just look up who I think number 2 is. Just look up how many hours he played in June, and I'll get you that total. I know a few guys guessed in the comments. So there are not many people who play for a living out here. A lot of people take it very seriously, but a lot of people have jobs. There are actually a couple who claim they played for a living. I haven't seen them. Saw them a lot pre-pandemic when I lived here for like 2.5 years. Haven't seen them since I've been back. But still an accomplishment to me to lead this place in hours, because I wanted to show everyone, well, you might not understand without having played here, these are the loosest, deepest, wildest games I've ever played in. And even though my style leads to consistent profits and I limit the volatility in my game, in my poker life, it's still difficult to navigate a player pool like this, but it's still possible. Just because I play a low variance style game doesn't mean I can't play in wild games. It's a style that you can play in any lineup. And I chose to come here. I didn't have to come to Council Bluffs. I could have stayed in Vegas. I could have went to any city that has poker in the country. I chose to come here where I knew the games were this deep and loose and aggressive and wild, and I led the entire player pool in hours in June. So when you play a limited volatility game, which I try to do, I used to try to limit it really massively because I didn't have money back in 2015 and I was actually worried I would go broke. I'm not as worried. I mean, I'm not worried about going broke, and I don't try to limit my volatility that much anymore. I still do it to an extent. So when you do this, you definitely forego some dollars per hour. You play a little on the tighter side, and you're probably not playing as many all-ins as some other people, but what do you get? You're always paying for something if you're sacrificing some dollars per hour. What do I get when I sacrifice these dollars per hour? I get 2 very important things. One is hours. I don't run out of money. I don't run out of cash in my pocket. Literally running out of cash in my pocket. I remember one time that happened to me at Aria in 2015. I've played how many different days? I think over 1,500 days I've gone to play poker. That's the one time I could think of where I literally had no more cash left in my pocket. What else do you get? In addition to getting more hours than everybody else, you also stay in the game. So when I talk about hours, I mean for the week, for the month, for the year, you're going to get more hours than people. They might have a higher hourly. You're going to get way more hours. So you multiply those 2 things. Hours times hourly, that's how much money you've made. Okay, they might beat you in hourly, you're going to beat them in hours. So which one is going to result in more money? Don't know exactly, but they're ahead of you in one thing, you're ahead of them in the other thing. In addition to that, you're staying in the game. I moved to Vegas in 2015. I had $17,000. I couldn't go broke. That's when I started doing this. When I played in Wisconsin, my first 625 hours, I didn't care about going broke. I played a lot looser. I was willing to get all in more. I was willing to re-raise a lot more. I was willing to see draws a lot more often. I was willing to bluff way more often. I didn't care. It included one of the 2 really bad downswings of my life, but I also made. I think the second highest hourly if you separate my stats by city. So yeah, if you're willing to take on that volatility, it's going to be annoying during the downswings, but you will end up with more money if you do it correctly. The converse of that is limiting your volatility and not going broke. In 2015, I absolutely couldn't go broke, and that was a success. I moved to Vegas with $17,000, didn't go broke. I had never played full-time in my life, and I didn't have that much money, and I never came close to going broke. And even now, I aggressively put money into my brokerage account for funding my retirement. I don't keep all that much cash on hand in checkings accounts, savings accounts in my pocket, so it's still a pretty small amount of money. Like overnight, if I had to liquidate everything I could, it's still not that much money I have access to. So I still play a style like that. So last year, when I put a lot of money in my brokerage account, I left around $10,000 in a bank account, and I think the lowest it got was pretty close to $8,000. There was like a month I was breaking even, but had bills to pay, so money wasn't going in, you know, deposits from winning at poker, but money was coming out, you know, paying my credit card statement. So I think I started with about 10,000 and it got down pretty close to 8,000. That was the biggest dip, like by far, all year. So in theory, if I wanted to just leave $2,000 in my bank account, put everything else into my brokerage account, and just, you know, have what's in my pocket plus that $2,000, I would not have gone broke. I would have gotten very close to zero, but I would not have gone broke. That's as little an amount of money as I need to play poker every single day. So this style, it's not that, there's actually a lot more nuance to it than you might think. You know, if you're at the table just watching what I do, it might look very basic. There's definitely more to it than meets the eye, but I like it. It's boring sometimes. It's definitely annoying on the downswings, because just like when I'm winning and it's pretty difficult to lose, when you're losing, it's pretty difficult to turn it around. So sessions that start off poorly, I don't have really high hopes in them turning around, because it's not volatile in both directions. But I like the characteristics of this style. It's low stress, it's low volatility, and even with that, I can make a living playing the lowest stakes in Vegas most of the year, the tightest, most difficult games I've ever played in my life. So I enjoy it, and if you're having trouble making money at poker, or getting a lot of hours, or staying in the game, you should try deviating from the things you see on YouTube and on TV and on the internet. You don't need to be thinking about what hands you're gonna go 5-bet, or what hands you're gonna bluff shove on the river. I've done those things, but they're not necessary. They're nice to have in your back pocket. They're not necessary, and they're not as common as you might see in other media.